Eve was in the candy store just after opening, checking the register and arranging jars of jelly beans by color. When the delivery truck arrived earlier than expected, the driver handed her a small wooden crate with a handwritten label, "Experimental Candy, Handle with Care." That alone made Eve raise an eyebrow. She had managed the shop long enough to know that ordinary deliveries came in plain cardboard boxes, not old-fashioned crates that looked like they belonged in a mystery film. When she opened it, she found 12 tiny jars wrapped in silver paper, each with a different sticker. Truth Drop, Blink Pop, Loop Lollipop, Mirror Mint, and more. The note inside said, "Test only one piece per person. Effects are temporary. Do not mix flavors." Eve laughed under her breath. That sounds like exactly the kind of warning people ignore. Still, the jars were beautiful. They shimmered like they were lit from inside. She set them on the back counter, planning to call the supplier later. Then her best employee, Tommy, came in and asked what was new. Eve showed him the crate, and his eyes lit up immediately. "Free samples?" he asked. Eve told him to be careful, but curiosity had already won. He picked up a green candy marked Truth Drop and grinned. "What's the worst that could happen?" Eve should have stopped him. Instead, she watched as he popped it into his mouth. For a second, nothing happened. Then Tommy blinked hard, looked straight at her, and said, "I've always thought you secretly enjoy these weird disasters." Eve stared. "What?" He clapped a hand over his mouth. "I didn't mean to say that out loud." That was the moment Eve realized the day was about to become very strange. By noon, the first customers had arrived, and the candy shop was busy again. Eve tried to act normal, but she kept one eye on the experimental crate. Tommy was still embarrassed after the Truth Drop incident, though Eve noticed he also seemed weirdly honest about everything now. He admitted he hated licorice, loved old detective shows, and once cried because a goldfish died in a cartoon. Each confession made the customers laugh, which only made the store feel more alive. Then, a little girl with a red backpack pointed at a pink and blue candy labeled Blink Pop. Eve warned her to ask her mother first, but the girl's mother shrugged. "It's just candy, right?" The moment the girl sucked on it, she vanished. Not slowly, not dramatically. She was simply gone from the spot beside the counter, leaving only her backpack on the floor and a trail of sparkly dust in the air. Her mother screamed. A man near the freezer dropped his chocolate bar. Eve spun around, heart racing, while Tommy shouted, "She's still here! I can hear her giggling!" A second later, the girl reappeared exactly where she had been, cheeks puffed out with delight. "That was awesome," she said. "Do it again!" Eve barely had time to recover before a teenage boy bought a Loop Lollipop and bit into it while leaning against the counter. He froze, glanced around, and then walked back to the front door as if suddenly unsure why he was there. Then he repeated the same 3 steps, again. And again. Eve realized with horror that he was trapped in a tiny time loop, replaying the last 10 seconds. The candy store was no longer a shop. It was a lab experiment with shelves. By mid-afternoon, the strange candies had spread through the store like spilled glitter. People kept choosing the wrong jars, and every new flavor caused a new disaster. One customer ate a Mirror Mint and began hearing other people's thoughts, as if they were spoken out loud. Another tried a candy called Stretch Chew, and accidentally pulled his own sleeve 4 inches longer than it should have been. Eve rushed from one problem to another, trying to keep everything under control. She closed the experimental crate, but that didn't help because the effects were already spreading through the shop. A pair of twins giggled as they tried to stay invisible after chewing ghost gum. They could still be seen if they stood near the bright display lights, which made them panic and keep diving behind shelves. A woman in the checkout line began telling complete strangers the exact truth about her neighbor's cat, her ex-husband, and why she really came to the store every Thursday. She looked shocked each time a new secret escaped her mouth. Tommy, still under the effect of Truth Drop, walked around announcing useful but embarrassing facts. The manager is calm on the outside, but she is absolutely panicking inside. Eve glared at him. He nodded. That one was also true. At the back of the shop, the Loop Lollipop boy was still repeating himself, now using a banana as if it were a phone. Eve found herself laughing despite the chaos. The whole thing was ridiculous, impossible, and somehow kind of amazing. But then the lights flickered. Just once. Then again, the candy jars on the back counter rattled all by themselves. Eve stopped smiling. Someone, or something, was still touching the experimental shipment. Eve waited until the customers were distracted by the confusion and then slipped behind the counter to inspect the crate again. Under the silver wrapping, she found a second note, hidden beneath the warning label. This one was smaller, written in neat black ink. The candies respond to strong emotions. Do not let fear control the room. Eve frowned. That explained a lot, and yet not enough. If the candies reacted to emotions, then the shop itself was part of the problem. The more everyone panicked, the stranger the effects became. She looked around at the invisible twins, the truth-talking customers, the looping teenager, and Tomi still muttering accidental confessions. This wasn't just a candy accident. It was a test of control. Eve took a slow breath. Then she did the one thing no one else had done all day. She stayed calm. She clapped her hands and called out, "Everyone, listen! No more candy until I say so. Stay where you are and don't be scared. I can fix this." The room quieted. Even the lights seemed to settle. Eve opened the crate and studied the jars, one by one. She noticed that each label had a tiny symbol in the corner. A star, a moon, a swirl, a tiny key. The last jar had no label at all, only a black butterfly drawn on the lid. Her heart skipped. She had seen a butterfly shape like that before, etched into the old wooden shelf in the back room. The shop had been hiding something. Eve followed the butterfly mark to the backroom shelf, where her fingers found a hidden latch. The panel clicked open, revealing a narrow drawer built into the wall. Inside was an old notebook with faded candy recipes, handwritten notes, and a sketch of the same black butterfly. The final page explained everything. The experimental candies were originally created by a former owner of the shop, someone who believed sweets could reveal hidden truths, hidden fears, and hidden possibilities. The last line made Eve smile. Only a true manager of the shop can restore balance when the candies awaken. She looked back toward the front room, where the chaos was still humming softly. Then she picked up the unlabeled butterfly jar and opened it. Instead of making the room worse, it released a gentle wave of warm light that drifted across the shelves, calming everyone at once. The invisible twins reappeared. The looping boy stopped repeating himself, and Tomi finally stopped blurting out secrets. The customers applauded, though most of them had no idea what had just happened. Eve placed the butterfly jar on the top shelf as a warning and a promise. The shop was safe again, but now she knew it held more secrets than sweets. As the last customer left, she looked at the glowing crate and whispered, "You are going to be trouble." The candy store lights flickered once, almost like an answer.